Welcome back, YouTubers. We are back. We made it through episode 1, episode 2, the midweek update, and this is episode 3. Thank you once again for joining us. If this is the first time you joined us, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like down on the thumbs up down on the bottom left-hand part of your screen there. If you'd like to subscribe and keep up with us, click the red subscribe button down on the right-hand side of your screen. That way you can follow us, just like following somebody on Facebook or following somebody on Twitter. We have so many exciting stories this week. We've got some live footage from the Kalispel 2019 Winter and Spring Powwow out at Northern Quest Casino. We've got an interview with Colville tribal member and fashionista Angelina Campobasso. She's going to talk to us about some of the all-native fashion shows that she's got coming up. We also have an interview from the brand spanking new executive director of the American Indian Community Center here in Spokane. That's Linda Lauch. She's been there for 30 years. She's worked her way up the ranks, and man, now she's running the show. So she's going to give us an update on some of the services that they offer down there at the American Indian Community Center. So stick around. Check it out. And if you guys have any story ideas, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you have somebody that you think we should go out and interview, somebody that's a positive Native American role model, whether it's an academic, whether it's someone who's going to be a Division I up-and-coming athlete, if you have somebody who's maybe a tribal leader or maybe an elder that might have a good story for us, just let us know. You can email us at inlandnorthwestnativenews@gmail.com. Or you can go straight to our Facebook page. If you haven't seen our Facebook page, be sure to check it out. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, and be sure to follow us on Facebook. We have all sorts. We have all the information that we cover. We also have lots of other event flyers for powwows and arts and crafts, indigenous foods. We got updates from all the different reservations all throughout the Inland Northwest. Thank you so much again for joining us. We can't do this without you, and we look forward to coming out and telling your stories. Let us know. Let us know what you'd like us to cover, what you want us to hear. And don't forget, Hoopfest is coming up. Send us your team names so we can come out and check out how you guys are doing. We can follow you on the brackets. We've got an episode dedicated completely to Native American teams at Hoopfest this year. We're going to be going all over the place, checking out the brackets, checking out how the teams are doing, and see how everybody's doing out there on the courts. All right, so be sure to check that out. We have all of these articles, everything that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Again, we'll have all the links to all these articles in the comment section below. So let's get going. Something really exciting. Okay, this came out. Time Magazine's Top 100 Most Influential People. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, this article, this is kind of neat, I thought, is by Elizabeth Warren. So, Time Magazine, this year, in 2008, she writes this article talking about a little bit about her past, Ocasio-Cortez's past, anyhow. I'm going to read it real quick to you, just a little bit, but I just thought it was so exciting, so positive. It's another great day to be Indigenous. The year 2008 was a reckoning. While millions of Americans lost their livelihoods to Wall Street's greed, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez lost her dad to lung cancer, and her family fell off a financial cliff. She watched as our government bailed out Wall Street while it ignored families like hers. She learned the hard way that in America today, Washington protects the powerful while leaving hardworking people behind. Her commitment to putting power in the hands of the people is forged in fire. Coming from a family in crisis and graduating from school with a mountain of debt, she fought back against a rigged system and emerged as a fearless leader in a movement committed to demonstrating what an economy, a planet, and a government that works for everyone should look like. Man, this is great. A year ago, she was taking orders across the bar. Today, millions are taking cues from her. She reminds us all that even while greed and corruption slow our progress, even while armies of lobbyists swarm Washington, in our democracy, true power still rests with the people, and she's just getting started. Again, by Warner, a senator from Massachusetts, and she's a Democratic presidential candidate. Thank you, Elizabeth Warren, for recognizing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What an exciting time to be Indigenous. If you hadn't heard, down Nez Perce way, last week, April 17th, according to KHQ6 in Spokane, in the city of Lewiston, there was one man confirmed that was killed by police in a shootout. It happened late Wednesday evening. A Nez Perce tribal officer was also shot Wednesday in his home when a man arrived at his home and opened fire. Officer Josh Rigney was shot twice, and his wife called the police. He's been listed in stable condition. A tribal spokesperson said the shooter and the officer don't know each other. They also said the suspect is no longer a threat to the public. So following up on April 18th, Lewiston, Idaho, a Nez Perce tribal officer who was shot in his home Wednesday is doing well. According to authorities, Officer Josh Rigney is doing well and remains stable while he continues his recovery at St. Joseph Medical Center. Officer Rigney is a husband and father of 3. He is a second-generation police officer and has been with the Nez Perce Tribal Police for just over a year. If anyone would like to make a monetary donation to Officer Rigney and his family, an account has been set up at Lewis Clark Credit Union. You can reach them at 208-746-7233. So if you want to help them out, you know how tough medical bills can be, and we thank Officer Rigney for being there, man. Becoming a tribal police officer, it really, unfortunately, can paint a target on your back. But we admire all those who step up in law enforcement in Indian country. Thank you for your service. So if you'd like to help out, maybe send them a little bit of money. I'm sure they'd really appreciate it. Moving right along, back on the national scene. This is coming out of Indian country today. The Trump administration's attack on Indian country. The Trump administration took away Mashpee Wampanoag control of the land they relied on for their future. Unless Congress passes a remedy, Trump officials set a precedent that can lead to them passing a similar sentence on other tribes, says U.S. Representative Raul Grijalva. Raul Grijalva, the Trump administration is waging an unprecedented attack on Indian country. Unless Congress steps up soon, Native Americans across the country could soon lose the ability to determine their own economic future. I don't use these terms lightly, and it's important to understand the real sense of crisis that now grips tribal communities. In September 2018, the Department of Interior took land held in trust for the Mashpee Wampanoag, a Massachusetts tribe that has been recognized for decades without controversy out of trust status. That move has already had severe consequences, and other tribes fear they could suffer the same fate. Federal recognition of tribes flows from the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, which gives the federal government authorities to take land in trust for tribal economic development. The Department of the Interior based its Mashpee decision on the 2009 Supreme Court Carcieri v. Salazar decision, which held the federal agency cannot take land into trust for tribes federally recognized after 1934, a punitive and narrow ruling whose consequences continue to multiply. The Carcieri decision has created a two-tier system among tribes, the landed and the landless. That doesn't serve the public interest and has already done grave damage to Mashpee families. Wow. So, not only is the Indian child welfare attack currently under attack, we're also battling on the forefront our sovereignty, our tribal sovereignty as far as trust lands go. So we need to band together. We need to rally our non-native allies, and we need to be heard. We need to unite. We need to take all the tribes in our areas and all the tribes across the country and get together and fight this. We could be losing our lands. It's very hard to say where and when it'll stop, especially under this administration. This administration, pretty recently here, opened up waterways to start dumping mining waste back into them, and that's already affecting some of our waterways on reservations. So our waters are endangered, our land is endangered, our sovereignty is endangered. So now is the time to stand up for your rights and be heard. Talk to your tribal council, talk to your state representatives, talk to anybody and everybody, and let them know that we're not going to stand for this. Talk to anybody and everybody that'll listen, because the more they're informed, the more they can help us stand up for our rights. Moving right along, we have some other things. Gathering of Nations. Honor missing and indigenous women. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Albuquerque's Gathering of Nations will showcase Native American culture and bring awareness to a good cause. So most of us already know gatherings coming up. It's going to be a great thing. One of the things they put in here, this year's event begins Thursday at the fairgrounds and will pay tribute to missing and murdered indigenous women. That's a great thing. This year's event begins Thursday at the fairgrounds and will pay tribute to missing and murdered indigenous women. All right. So in addition to that, we had University of Montana kicks off their Indian Law Week, and this is according to the Missoulian. So the newspaper in Missoula. University of Montana kicks off their Indian Law Week, and as you can see, they're out there singing already. I'm going to have links to all of these articles in the comment section below. It goes on to state here, we sang this memorial song in memory of those who are lost and have never been found, said Head Swift, a Northern Cheyenne man and University of Montana student in Native American Studies. Even though we can't see you, we know you're still around, and we're still searching for you. So that's great to see that. What a great way to use those platforms. Here we have a national platform at the Gathering of Nations, and we have a state platform at the University of Montana to get the message out. Missing and murdered in indigenous women, indigenous peoples. And speaking of the MMIW, Washington State, this is a great one. So this is a second substitute House Bill 1713 in Washington State. This was something that was passed by the Senate and by the House and is going to the governor. The legislature finds that Native American women experience violence at much higher rates than other populations. A recent federal study reported that Native American women are murdered at rates greater than 10 times the national average. Many of these crimes, however, are often unsolved or even unreported because there are also very high rates of disappearance for Native American women. The legislature further finds that although violence against Native American women has been a neglected issue in society, there's a growing awareness of this crisis, as well as a recognition that the criminal justice system needs to better serve and protect Native American women. The legislature intends to find ways to connect state, tribal, and federal resources to create partnerships to find ways to solve this crisis facing Native American women in our state, while being mindful to include voices from both tribal and urban communities. Now, Montana had done something very similar to this real recently, so it's really, the more awareness that we can raise to this issue, anytime we can get out, anytime we bust out the red skirts, anytime we get out in March, we're just raising more and more awareness. It's raising more and more support from our Native communities and our non-Native allies. So this goes on to state, a new section is added to Chapter 43.43 of the Revised Code of Washington, and it reads, two liaison positions for missing and murdered indigenous women and other missing and murdered indigenous peoples are established in Washington State Patrol. One liaison must reside in Western Washington, the Seattle area, and the other liaison must reside in Eastern Washington. The liaison shall work to build relationships to increase trust between governmental organizations and Native communities. The liaison shall facilitate communications among Indian tribes and tribal organizations and communities, urban Indian organizations and communities, tribal liaisons and other state agencies, law enforcement agencies at federal, state, local, and tribal levels, non-governmental entities that provide services to Native American women, and the salary for these liaison positions is fixed by the Washington State Patrol. Now, this last part here is very important. To be eligible for hire as a liaison, an applicant must have significant experience living in tribal or urban indigenous communities. What that means is that they're mandating cultural competence for these people that are applying for this. So they're going to be looking out for Indian people's needs, and they have to be able to demonstrate that they're familiar with how with Indian people's way of life, whether that's our cultural, our spiritual, whether it's people that have been affected by trauma, the intergenerational trauma, or all the different things that affect Indian country. So that's a great mandate. Goes on to state the Washington State Patrol must develop the best practices protocol for law enforcement response to missing persons reports for indigenous women and other indigenous persons. The protocol must include steps that law enforcement should take upon receiving a missing persons report for an indigenous woman or other indigenous person. So if you remember, back when the study was conducted by the Seattle Indian Health Board, they found out that a lot of law enforcement agencies weren't even keeping track, and a lot of them weren't reporting the murders as murders. A lot of them weren't reporting missing or even tracking them at all. So this mandates that in Washington State. Goes on to state the Governor's Office of Indian Affairs must provide the Washington State Patrol with government-to-government training and must work with the Washington State Patrol to schedule and facilitate the training. Government to government, that again, it's reinforcing our sovereignty. If specific funding for the purpose of this act, referencing this act, bill, or chapter number is not provided by June 30th, 2019 in the Omnibus Appropriations Act, this act is null and void. So we need to make a difference. We need to be heard, and we need to push Governor Inslee, which Governor Inslee, if you're listening, man, we need your help on this issue. It keeps going on and on. It's kind of falling in your lap. So anyhow, on more of a local level, we have out on the Colville Reservation, 2019, Annual Alcohol Awareness Reservation Relay. It's May 21st in Omak, May 22nd in Nespelem, May 23rd in Keller, and May 24th in Inchlim. This year the relay begins in Omak and ends in Inchlim. Please have all participants complete the registration form and return to Tribal Health Programs no later than May 10th, 2019. Again, we'll leave a link to this in the comment section below. We'll leave a link to the Washington State information that I just talked about in the comment section below. Colville Tribal Health founded and sponsored the Reservation Relay to help reduce the stigma associated with alcoholism and recovery. Program contact is greg.marris at 509-634-2092 or at greg.marris at colvilletribes.com. So, moving right along, there's a call for artists. If you're a Native American artist, you're looking for a place to display, this is a great opportunity coming up. Applications are due April 29th. It's call for artists at the Titwatit Native Art Gallery. 3 pieces per artist maximum, must be display ready. So they got to be ready to hang or ready to show. The commission is waived on this one, so this is a good time to cash in a little bit. The opening date will be May 11th, 2019. Pick up applications at the NND office or contact Cassandra Waters at 509-633-9940. That's Cassandra W at thenndf.com. You go to the NNDF Facebook page to check it out. So we have all sorts of things coming up. We've got an interview with Colville tribal member and fashionista Angelina Campobasso out at the Kalispel tribal powwow, the spring and winter 2019 powwow. We also have highlights from that powwow coming up, and we got an interview from the brand spanking new executive director Linda Lauch. She's been out there for 30 years working at the American Indian Community Center. We want to say kudos to you, good luck to you. We're going to hear an update on her, on the American Indian Community Center, and some of the services that they offer. So stick around. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. If you like what you've seen so far and you want to see more, be sure to like. If you want to follow us, be sure to hit that little red button down there to subscribe. There's no lifetime obligation. You can cancel it at any time, and it doesn't cost you a nickel. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Inland Northwest Native News. I'm Jeff Ferguson, and now let's go to the powwow. All right, welcome back. Inland Northwest Native News. We're here with Angelina Campobasso, and Angelina here is a fashion designer. She's set up with some of her goods behind us, and she's got some fashion shows that she's got coming up this year. So can you tell us a little bit about what you got going?
Well, my business is called Creative Native, and I've been doing this going on about 14 years. So the last few shows, I've been partnering with Runway Renegades, so we do shows that promote for Under the Bridge, like for homeless. We've done shows for like Hearts Gathered, the State of Submersion School back home on the Colville Indian Reservation. And what I like to do with those shows is promote Native designers and artists and models. And so we work with women, children, and men for our shows, all for nonprofits. And so it's rewarding because we get to help other Native Americans build up their businesses and get recognized. So that's really rewarding to do that. And then this year I was asked to partner again with Runway Renegades. I kind of took a 2-year break. And so we'll be doing a show on September 14th at I think it's the Riverside Palace. So that'll be September 14th at 5 p.m. So if anybody wants to get tickets for that, that goes on sale with Tickets West. And then also I'm part of the We Are One board, and it works with the Spokane School District. And then also I just met with the Colville tribe, my tribe, and we're going to be meeting with the Kalispels, the Spokanes, and the Coeur d'Alenes, inviting them so we can have their children in our shows. It's going to be a multicultural show in mid-October, and it'll be a show, a tribute to Quincy Jones. They're actually doing the show in Seattle first. And so we'll be flying in some stars to work with our kids. So it's really exciting. So in the fields of art, music, dance, theater, film, and fashion. So I'll be doing the fashion show with the kids and pulling in the Native children. So ages 10 through 18 will be promoted in these shows. And they get to work with the stars for 2 to 3 days prior to the show. So right now we're trying to build up the coffers. We need $25,000 in the coffers so we can fly in some stars to work with the kids. And of course the show is a lot more than that, but we need a starting point. So that's what we're working on now.
All right. So if somebody wanted to be part of your show, how would they get a hold of you?
They can find me on Facebook, or they can email me at creative.native@yahoo.com. I'm all over Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find.
Can you tell? Okay, so if somebody wanted to donate, if they were interested in helping out, what would they have to do?
So for the We Are One show in October, we're working with the Novia Foundation, so they can donate to the Novia Foundation or let me know, and I can put them in touch with our people that are setting up the account there. So they're helping us with funding for the event. And then for Runway Renegades, they can email me because we could always use help for that. Or we have people who volunteer doing photography. We've got people that come in and drum. We've got music artists that work with us. We even need security guards once in a while. So we get a lot of people donating their time. Our models, some of them donate their time and they get recognized. And one of our gals is in Fashion Week all the time in New York. And so they get recognized, they get more work, so it's a great event, and it works out for everybody.
So other than fashion, there's a whole other side of you. From my understanding, you threw your hat in. You're running for council.
Yes, I'm running for Nispelem District Council, position 1. Didn't think I was going to do this till I was older, but I decided. There's a lot of things going on with our tribe, along with many tribes. Most tribes are at 50% poverty rate, and we have underserved communities in many aspects, as far as housing, school, roads, transportation, all kinds of planning. And that is my background. I went to school and got my master's in science and urban regional planning, and also tribal planning. Actually worked with Margot Hill and learned tribal law that you apply to planning. So I've been doing planning for at least 18 years. Even before I got my degree, I was working in the plan department of my tribe and helped build 3 new clinics. And that was really rewarding, seeing those clinics being built. And while I was helping open up the San Pollo Clinic, I realized a lot of elders were telling me they had a hard time getting their grandchildren to the appointments because of transit. There was no adequate transit. So when I went back to school, I got my thesis on transit, 2-year study under Eisenhower program. So Eastern Washington University offered Eisenhower program for the first time. So me, Chimisa Bird, Casey Moore, and actually Will Marchand were the first group of natives that ever did the Eisenhower. So it's a pretty prestigious fellowship you go through. You tour the country with your project, and you end up at TRB, which is the Transit Research Board in Washington, D.C. So with that, it has really set the kind of foundation for my planning. Also with the masters and past experience, I really feel I'd be a good candidate for position one. I'm really concerned with what's happening with our tribe. I know we could go in a lot more positive direction, and I have all kinds of ideas that I would like to bring forth. I actually wrote a 6-page letter. It's pretty long, and I think people are very interested and very concerned what's happening. So people have taken the time to actually read it and see my points. We have a shortage of housing, like most tribes, and we need to be able to retain and bring back home our educated members, place them in the appropriate positions so our tribe can work even better. Anywhere from economic development, community planning, facilities, transportation, transit, again, housing. It's where I want our tribe to catch up to the rest of the world. We're like 30 years behind, and that is like most tribes. So I think we need new blood in there, positive, educated, motivated, and remember that they are working for the people and not for themselves. So that's really, really important. That's why I'm running.
The American Indian Community Center started out its life in 1967 as the American Indian Movement. It was not affiliated with the larger organization of the American Indian Movement. It was more a place for people who have relocated into the urban area to have a place to gather, to feel comfortable, to have social activities, have a place for their children to be, so that Indian people in the city of Spokane have their own place. And that's how the American Indian Community Center started. Later on in the 70s, the Indian Center took on some programs, first with city funding, and then with other kinds of funding, including Department of Labor funding, some tribes' donations. We even received donations from a grocery store that we get every year, plus we get some coats and stuff from different places. Our funding does not come from tribes or gaming, so we're usually piecing our funding together. I believe the main focus of the American Indian Community Center is to be able to provide social and economic services programs for Native Americans and all other racial groups in our service area. I think that we try to take on as many programs as we can so that the needs of our people are met under our roof, because under our roof is the only place we have control. And what I mean by control is that people are treated in a certain way when they walk through our building doors. We can't guarantee that people will be treated the way that we'd like if we send them out to other programs without us going with them. So I think the main focus is that we have a population of people who are in desperate need of services, and we try to provide as many of those services as we can under this roof. Some of the programs that we offer are the Employment and Training Program, the Indian Child Welfare Program, Parent-Child Visitations, Family Services, which is an information and referral program for people in need. We also provide senior meals daily at 11:30. We have a summer kid meal program that serves lunches at 12 o'clock. We have kind of a basic needs area where people come in and donate clothing and household goods, and we distribute those to people that need them. We have a tutoring program for grade school and junior high and high school youth that meets every Thursday night. We also have, coincidentally, we have dinner served every Thursday night at 5:30 to anybody who's hungry. The last thing we have is our and something that we're really very proud of is our tech center. We have a 10 space computer lab that's open 5 days a week for anyone who needs to use it to look for work, to do emails, to keep in contact with their families, any number of reasons why people come in and use it. But it is there, and that's we're very proud of that program because we've only had funding for it for 2 years, and it's been going for 5 years, so we've been really piecing it together and keeping it going. The biggest challenge that the Indian Center has faced has been funding. There's a misconception out there in the funding world that we receive money from large casinos. We do not. Sometimes we write requests and get them granted, but we are not funded by tribes or casinos. I think that, for example, our United Way funding has been cut year after year after year. And I think part of that is because the misconception is that we don't need the United Way funding because we probably get money from the Kalispels or the Coeur d'Alenes. And that's not the case. So I think that getting out there and, just hitting that message home that we do need funding from organizations, foundations, contracts in order to survive. And rather than just survive, we'd like to thrive. We would like to increase the size of our programs rather than trying to figure out how to do more with less all the time. I think the American Indian Center serves the community, and because there are so many American Indian people living in the Spokane area that are not from local tribes, when they have family emergencies, they come to the Indian Center. And I think that's what is the most special about the Indian Center, is that people know that no matter what it is, they can come here.
Inland Northwest Native News, like and subscribe.
Perfect. That's great.